Welcome to Grade 10 Chemistry. We're starting a unit this term on um, different aspects of chemical reactions. So watch this video. There'll be a few points where you'll have to go and do other tasks as we go through this. And what we're working towards is an exam that we're completing at the end of the term. Okay, so today in particular, we will do a prior knowledge quiz. I'll give you the link to that in a moment and you can go and do that one. We'll have a look at some terms in chemistry, terms that we're going to use this term, and start to have a little bit of a look at chemical reactions. I've got these nice little tips for life throughout this video, so you can have a look at those as we go. Alright, so prior knowledge is very important. We kind of want to get an idea of where you're coming from. So you've studied different aspects of chemistry last year and so on. You should be familiar with things like elements, compounds and mixtures, because that's all done in grade 9 chemistry. You should know a bit about the structure of the atom, how there's like a nucleus and electrons spinning around the outside and stuff like that. So we'll see how much of that you've retained in this pretest. So what you need to do is go to this website here. It is a Google form, so you can get that link there and head over there and complete that little task. Pause this video, go and do that task now, and when you've finished, come back. Alright, I hope you did alright on that little test. It was self-marking, so it should give you a result at the end of it. So chemistry terms. We've got listed a few terms on the screen there, and what I want you to do is just pause the video and cast your eye down that list and see if there's any sort of that look familiar to you, or you might have heard before, or you might be a little bit familiar with. Okay, and here's our definitions. So I hope you paused the video and did that. So things like, we'll start at the top here, reactants, things used at the start of a chemical reaction. We react them together, and what do they produce? They produce number 2 there, the products. So that's the end result of the reaction. How quickly the reactants become products, or that reaction proceeds, is what we refer to as our reaction rate. What's important to us is surface area, because these reactants must physically come in contact with each other to react, and so the actual area that they've got to touch each other is of importance. Catalyst is a word used in chemistry, something that speeds up how quickly that reaction occurs. Concentration, that's a little bit like, think of cordial. You can have a very strong concentration or a very weak concentration. A strong concentration means there's more reactants to start with. Variable is a term that we often use in science. Things that we change or control in an experiment. It could be the concentration of the reaction. It could be the surface area of the reaction. Things like that. Dependent variable and independent variable are terms that we've used a few times throughout science, and it's worth understanding the difference between those. All right, it's kind of like the independent variable is the one that you will set before you do the experiment, and the dependent variable is the one that you're actually measuring in the experiment. And it's almost like if you end up doing a graph of them, the independent variable goes there on the x-axis, and the dependent variable will go on the y-axis. Fair tests, you've probably heard of that term before, keeping every other variable the same, except the ones that you're specifically measuring in the test. Hypothesis we've discussed in science before, predicting the result before the experiment. It's kind of like your explanation for what's going to happen in your experiment before you do it. We will later on look at some different types of reactions, such as decomposition and combination reactions. Combination, two things combining together to form one product. For example, like hydrogen plus oxygen gives water, as in there's two different things to start with and they're combining into one. The decomposition reaction is the opposite of that. It's kind of like where you start with one and you split it up into a number of other reactants, other products, sorry. Okay, time for a video. Nice little video there about the little flame there. Demonstrate how reactions of elements occur on the periodic table. Have a look at that one, and we've got some questions to complete when you're finished. I hope you've watched that video now. We have a few questions on the screen here for you to answer. Do we think these reactions occurred quickly? Can you give us some examples of the ones that occur slowly? So if we look at the little table like this, just take a moment to fill this in. Think about some fast reactions and some slow reactions. Fast reactions generally are things like explosions. They tend to occur really, really quickly. Whereas slow reactions, things that occur over a much, much longer period of time. Usually things like rusting is a slow reaction because if you've got a bit of iron or steel, it'll take ages to see the rust start to occur. You might see a little bit of surface rust initially, but to get a lot of rust, it'll take a long time to happen. I hope you've got a few more that you can enter into that slide there. Just pause that, make sure you jot some down before we go on. Okay, tasks to move on with from now. So next lesson, we're going to look at how we change the speed of a reaction, because something chemists do is actually manipulate how fast or how slow a reaction will occur. If you want to make a lot of a particular product, you want to speed it up and make it go really, really fast. If you want it to take a long, long time for a reaction to occur for whatever reason, then you're going to do whatever you can to slow that reaction down so it happens over a much, much longer period of time. Something like making a particular product, like making nitrogen for a fertilizer, you want that to happen quick because the more you can produce, the more fertilizer you can make and the more you can sell. Whereas something like if you've got a steel boat or even an aluminium boat, like a tinny or something, it's going to rust in the salt water that's sitting in. You want to slow that reaction down over a long period of time so your boat doesn't rust away. Okay, so what your task is, have a look at the textbook there, read those pages. You need to read that section, and I want you to try a few of those questions. Let me know how many of them you get done before you leave today's lesson. Okay, take a moment to think. What have you learned today? Once you've had a think about that one, I've got a little video there at the end for you to watch to help better prepare you for next lesson. Okay, thank you for coming.